A very good morning to all of you. I welcome you all on behalf of Law Center 1, which is organizing a series of webinars under our career oriented lecture series. It is to be organized by the placement committee of Law Center 1 to give a new perspective to our students that what they can do after they are getting the degree of LLB. So different areas are there, and if somebody is interested in practicing in Supreme Court, then it is a requirement, not of course for all, but it is advisable to be advocate on record, which is a very long process, but we have to start the preparation after getting our degree itself. Now for this purpose, I would like to invite our guest advocate Ankita Chaudhary ji to give a session on this. And before I invite her to deliver her lecture on this, I would like to introduce her very briefly, because if I see the achievements, they are so long. So basically, she is a practicing advocate on record in the Honorable Supreme Court of India and of course Delhi High Court. And she has been a Deputy Advocate General for the state of MP before the Honorable Supreme Court of India. She is on C panel for Union of India in Supreme Court, on panel of Reliance Nippon Insurance, on legal aid panel, and she is handling many important cases. And she, not only this, she is also a social activist. She has worked in various areas as far as the social activism is concerned. This I want to highlight. In addition to her legal practice, she is a member of fact-finding team, which was constituted in a case of gang rape of tribal girls in daylight at district Kunti, Ranchi. She is a coordinator in a research team who submitted report on effective role of women member parliament in enacting central laws. And also she is a co-author and co-editor in a book released named as Triple Denial, Justice, Equality and Dignity. And she has been part of many seminars and she has delivered many lectures. So today I request Madam to kindly highlight the areas that how our students can prepare for the examination of advocate on record. Maybe that is the aspiration of many of the students. So I welcome you on behalf of Law Center 1, on behalf of our professor in charge, Professor Sarabjit Kaur, and on my personal behalf. Now over to you, Ankita ji.
Thank you, Alok ji. Namaskar. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Sarabjit madam and Alok ji for having me here. Most of you must be in your final year or have entered final year of your course, and after getting law degree in your hand, another platform is waiting for you. Or rather, I should say that the question is in everybody's mind that what to do next, where I should go. Whether I should go for litigation or I should join some law firm or in-house counsel or PSUs or banks like that. So it is actually a tough question to decide, but yes, we have to. Obviously, our the complete future is depend on it. So let me help you with my little knowledge or experience for those who are interested in litigation and especially in the Supreme Court of India. I will speak on the today's topic, that is the helping hand to become an advocate on record. So basically, I'll speak about how to prepare yourself to become an advocate on record. It's if you want to specifically, if you are dreaming to practice as an advocate on record in Supreme Court, then you must know what are the eligibility criteria and all. What are the duties as an advocate on record? So I will share with the what is the syllabus to for which you have to prepare yourself to clear this exam. Basically, when we have our law degree, so we are an advocate. First, you have to complete your law degree. Then you have to you have a bar exam also. So after enrolling yourself as an advocate, then you have to clear your bar exam. After bar exam, then they will give you an certificate of practice. Now the next choice is where do you want to start your practice. Now if you are not a if you are thinking to practice in high courts and district courts, then obviously then there is no need to clear this exam, that is advocate on record. But yes, if you are dreaming to become to practice in Supreme Court of India, then I will say that the to crack this exam is important. So first category is the advocate. When you will complete the law, you will get a certificate. Now the second is advocate on record. Advocate on record is an advocate who is entitled under the order 4 of Supreme Court rules, framed under Article 145 of the Constitution of India. Now what is the difference between the advocate and advocate on record? An advocate is legally trained professionals who practice before any court of law. But yes, to advocate on record, advocate on record instructs the advocate to appear in Supreme Court. An advocate cannot file wakalatnama in Supreme Court, but yes, only and only the advocate on record can file wakalatnama before the Supreme Court of the obvious court and litigation practice is a must. So this standard is ensured by the advocate on record examination. Taking the AOR exams and conquering it, it's not an easy task. You have to actually prepare for it, like the way you prepare yourself for the judiciary. So now basically 3 types of advocate. The first is the advocate, then the advocate on record, and the senior advocate. That is a designation. So advocate on record is a term used for advocates who can file wakalatnama in Supreme Court. And the next is the senior advocate. Senior advocate is required, before designation, an advocate as a senior advocate after having practice of 20 years, or you should have some special knowledge of law on your subjects. Now, what are the eligibility criteria to become an advocate on record? If an advocate wants to practice in Supreme Court of India as an advocate on record, then you must complete 4 years of practice. Then you have to commence your training under an AOR only, and that AOR having has already spent more than 10 years as an AOR. Then you will given a certificate of commencement of training to the AOR office, that so on so and so date I have started training under so and so AOR. Then after a expiry of 1 year, after the completion of 1 year of training, you will submit a certificate of completion certificate to the AOR office. Then the exams, earlier they used to conduct the exam twice in a year, but from now, I think from last 9 to 10 years, they conduct the exam only once in a year. That is either a first week or second week of June. So if we are not in this situation of COVID-19, the advocates must be preparing for your AOR exam, because we have just entered in the month of June. So it's a high time, because I can just share my experience. The last year I was in the same boat that I prepared. So now after submission of these formalities, then you are eligible to appear before the AOR exams. Now, what is the syllabus for AOR exams now? Earlier, there were till 2012, there were 5 subjects, including practice and procedure, then the drafting, then the accounting, the professional ethics, and the last was the leading cases. Now, after 2013, the third subject, the accountancy, is no more subject in the AOR exam. Now, there are only 4 subjects after 2013. And these 4 subjects, first is practice and procedure, second is drafting, third is professional ethics, and the fourth is the leading cases. Now, I'll start with one by one. The first subject is includes the important provision of the Constitution of India relating to the jurisdiction of court. Basically, Article 124 to Article 145 of the Supreme Court of the Constitution of India, it's talk about the constitutional provisions pertaining to union judiciary. So, and second is the Supreme Court Rules 2013, then some part of CPC and the Limitation Act. So I'll deal with briefly. I will just go through the the Article 124 to 145. Article 124 is talk about the establishment and constitution of Supreme Court. That there shall be a Supreme Court of India constituting a Chief Justice of India, and until Parliament by law prescribes a larger number of not more than 7 other judges. Now, between Article 124 to 145, it talks about the appointment of Supreme Court judges, types of jurisdiction of Supreme Court judges, Then what are the binding authorities of Supreme Court, advisory jurisdiction. These are the articles which we, which we read in for this exams. Like, now there are some important articles. Article 129 is very important article. Article 129 provides that the Supreme Court shall be a court of record and shall have all the power of such a court, including the power to punish for contempt itself. So this is one of the very important sections. Now we also deal the types of jurisdiction of Supreme Court. Supreme Court have basically three types of jurisdiction. First is original jurisdiction. In original jurisdictions, we talk about the Article 32, that the writ we can directly approach to the Supreme Court by filing writ petitions where when our fundamental rights are being violated. Then original jurisdiction also considered, you can file a suit, a plaint, when there is a dispute between two or more state. Article 131 provides that you can file a suit, or there are three conditions when there is a dispute between two or more states. Second is when there is a dispute between the government versus, and the third condition is where a dispute between government or state. So these are the conditions when we can directly file a suit before the Supreme Court of India. That will be filed under Article 121. And the third jurisdiction is third part of original jurisdiction is the transfer jurisdiction. Transfer jurisdiction is this jurisdiction basically specifically talks about the matrimonial cases. We can take an example. Suppose if a wife, she filed a petition in Delhi, and the husband, he filed a then either of them, they can file a transfer petition provided under Article 139, 139 and 139A of the Constitution of India, that they want to transfer their matter from Delhi to Maharashtra or Maharashtra to Delhi. So this is also one of the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And the next part is the advisory jurisdiction. Advisory jurisdiction is covered under Article 143 of the Constitution of India. This jurisdictions when the President of India, he wants to take reference from the Supreme Court, or they want to take some suggestions on some point. So they also refer a matter to the Supreme Court for their consent or for their suggestions. So this part covers under Article 143. Now the next jurisdiction is the appellate jurisdiction. Appellate jurisdictions cover under Article 132 to 134. When 132, it talks about the appeal from High Court where there's a substantial question of law of to the interpretation of Constitution is involved. Second is the civil appeal, and the Article 134 is a criminal appeal. So these three, Article 132, 134 talk about the appellate jurisdiction. Now the third jurisdiction is the advisory, which I just discussed, Article 143. Now what are the other powers? The power of review. The Supreme Court, as per Article 137 of Constitution of India, provides that subject to the provision of any law and rules made under Article 145, the Supreme Court has power to review its order, its judgment, order made by it. So review petition basically a discretionary right of a court. Now the next is the 139 and 139A. I just discussed the transfer jurisdictions. Now the next is Article 142. 142 is very important. 142 in the Constitution of India talks about the enforcement of decree and orders of Supreme Court, and unless as to discovery, etc. The best example which I take for Article 142 is the Vishakha judgment. In the year 1992, when this judgment came, so there was no law to the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. So, but the Supreme Court, when the writ petition came before the Supreme Court has framed certain guidelines for the employers to comply with these guidelines when the women, they work at their workplace. And this judgment has appreciated on international level, passed by our Supreme Court of India. Later on, the Parliament came up with the enactment, that is Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. So Supreme Court has power that if there is, on a specific situation, there is no enactment, there is no law. Then in that case, the Supreme Court can pass an order, can pass some guidelines, that until unless no law is made by the parliament, these are the guidelines which is to be followed all over India. So this is the power under Article 142. Now Article 141 is the any order passed by the Supreme Court is binding authority on all court subordinates to it. So that is also it's one of the power that Supreme Court has. Now Article 144 of the Constitution mandates that all the authorities, civil and judicial, in the territory of India shall act in aid of the Supreme Court. Now, Supreme Court make its own rules to have its own practice and procedure, and this power comes under Article 145, the Constitution of India. Article 145 says it's the rules of court means etc. Rules of court means that the provision of any law made by Parliament to the Supreme Court from time to time with the approval of the President make rules for its regulating of the Supreme Court. Generally, it talks about generally the practice and the procedure of the Supreme Court itself. So these are the provisions which we read in paper 1, that is the practice and procedures. With the first, then the second is that you have to read the Supreme Court rules. Supreme Court rules 2013. Earlier, first it was Supreme Court rules 1996. Later on, it was amended. Now it's Supreme Court rules 2030. Because whenever you file a petition, you always write the provision of the constitutions, because it's obviously it is a constitutional case. Read with Supreme Court rules of so and so. So that is why the Supreme Court rules 2013. Then the some portion of CPC and the Limitation Act. Obviously, what are the limitation period to file appeal, to file SLP, to file writ, to file the counter affidavits on these. So we read the Limitation Act also. So this is the paper, and yes, I must tell you, this is the one of the scoring subject out of 4, the practice and the procedure. This is actually, and this paper includes short question also of 1 marks each. Then there is a question of 5 marks and 10 marks also. It depends upon the examiner. So every year they change their pattern, so confuse the advocates, I must say. But yes, this is a scoring subject. Now I will come up with the second subject, the drafting part. Drafting is basically you have to now obviously in today we draft our petition either on our laptop or desktop or our PC and computers, and we take at least 2 to 3 hours to complete one petition. Even if I'll just pick up the file, I'll read the file, then I will think what point is to be added, and then I will sit on to for a final draft. So it takes me 3 to 4 hours to final one draft. But when in paper they give you 5 questions, and out of 5 you have to attempt 4. So in 4 questions you have to draft the petition. They will give you either to draft SLP civil or criminal. They might give you to draft writ petition. They also might give you to draft a reply of SLP, that is counter affidavit, rejoinder, transfer petition, anything. So basically they will in drafting paper you have to they'll give you 3 hours plus half an hour extra to just go through the question paper, to go through the situations they have given, to read it. So this paper includes the petitions for specially petitions, statement of case, decrees, order, notice. Its syllabus also includes the review petition under Article 137, transfer petition under Section 25 of CPC and under Article 139 of Constitution of India, then counter affidavit, then writ petitions under Article 32 of Constitution India, or we can say that if you want to fight PIL. So, to draft 4 petition in 3 hours is a quite tough task, but yes, we don't have any other option. So the second paper consists of drafting of all these things. Now, if I'll come to the third part, that is the third subject, the advocate and the professional ethics. This includes the general things which we read in our degree course also. We always, we had the subject of professional ethics. So this subject, which includes the Advocates Act and the cases report under the Advocates Act, the contempt of court, cases related to contempt of court by advocates, then misconduct on part of advocates, misrepresentations. Then this subject will also contain the Bar Council of India rules, Supreme Court rules. Obviously, this subject also contains, the famous case is related to this. Basically, if I must say that these subjects includes all subjects are interrelated to each other. Like if I'm fully thorough with the first subject, the practice and procedure, where you will read all the articles, that is article 124 to 145, then obviously you will read Supreme Court rules also. So if you are thorough with the first subject, then it will help you in second subject, because whenever we draft a petition, we always write that in the Supreme Court of India, under Article 136 of India. So if I'm just taking an example of SLP. So we will write that in the Supreme Court of India, under Article 136 of Constitution of India, read with Rule 21, Order 21, Rule 3, Subclause A of Supreme Court of Rules 2030. This is how we write whenever we draft a specially petition before Supreme Court of India. And if we think, we will not write all these provisions, so we cannot escape ourselves from these provisions, because even if you will file it without writing provision, then registry is definitely going to mark a defect in your petition, that you have not written a clear correct provision on your petition. So we should read it, and we have to read it if we want to clear this exam. Now I will come on next subject, that is the leading case. This is also one of the very important subject, and it's going to be take not more than 5 to 6 months if you will read it, if you will read the complete 40 list of 40 cases. What they do actually, this they provide a list of 40 cases every year. They add 4 to 5 case in this list, or they will alter some cases, either 40 or 44 case. Like for example, they will start from Keshwananda Bharti versus State of Kerala, then Minerva Mills versus Union of India, Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan, Ashok Thakur versus Union of India. Then we can take example of another case, SP Gupta versus of India. So these are the list of cases. I'm just taking 4 to 5 cases because the list is very long. Vodafone cases. These are the list of cases. What they do in this exam, they will give you a book, the small brief. There is a just crux of the case, but this is very difficult. Sometimes we think, when we know that they are going to provide us book, so what is the need to read it? But 3 hours is very less, because they will give you just they will pick up a para from one of the case, and they will give you that para in your question paper. Now if you have not read that judgment, then you just have to find it in the entire book, that which judgment they are talking about. So if I'll share my experience, I used to read case one by one, just to read the case notes and summary, just to have idea in my mind. Yes, if they have given this paragraph of so and so judgment, that I can pick from, I can take the help of language from the book. But yes, I should know which topic they are talking about. So this is also one of the very important case. So again, I'm saying all four subjects are interrelated to each other, because when you have read this judgment, so they're also I complete that. You have to complete subjects one by one. You have to divide your subject to how do you want to start. Like suppose if I'm reading a judgment on constitutional points, like what are the judgment passed by Supreme Court of India on reservation. So I have to classify those judgments. These are the judgment which talks about the reservation. So this is the best way to cover all the judgment. If I start number 1, number 2, number 3, then in the last, everything is going to be mixed up. In which judgment I read what. So the best part is to classify your subject wise, that reservation topic. These are the judgment which talks about the reservation. Sexual harassment at workplace. These are the judgment which talks about the sexual harassment workplace in chronological manner. By that you will remember these judgment for rest of your life. So I can say that. Now obviously after and you need at least, I can say you need at least 2 months to prepare yourself for this exam. Obviously you are going to represent in the apex court of India, so they expect such sincerity and discipline from the advocate on record. Now once you give an exam, then they will declare a result after 7 to 8 months. Now even in the exam, what is the criteria to crack this exam? You have to secure 50 marks in each subject, and in overall the aggregate should be 60%. Now, if suppose if you have not cleared it, then there are some regulations also. Now, regulation 1 is you have cleared 3 exams and you could not crack 1 exam, then and you in remaining 3 exams you have scored 50%, then you will be in regulation 1. And next year you will be, you can either, this is option, it's up to you that to appear in all 4 exams, or you just want to repeat that exam only. In regulation 2, you have secured 50 marks in each subject, but the aggregate is less than 60%. Then again, you have an option either to appear in all 4 exams to reach your aggregate, or just to appear in one exam so that you can reach, suppose 4 or 5 marks were less to reach 60%. Then it's option is up to you that you want to give that exam or you want to repeat all your exams. Now there is a regulation 3 also. Suppose who fails in all the papers of the examination, that the person shall not be permitted to appear in the next examination. It means that you have to take gap of 1 year, and after a gap of 1 year, then you will be eligible to appear in that exam. Now the regulation 4 is that there are only 5 chances will be given to you. After 5 chances, if you are if you are not able to crack that, that's it. Then you will practice as an advocate only. Now, after cracking an AOR, what are your duties as an AOR before the court? Obviously, when after by that time you will be eligible for this exam, you'll be having a practice of at least 6 to 7 years, because 4 years of practice, then you will take training of 1 year, at least minimum 5 to 6 years. You just take it that you will be having practice of 5 to 6 years. Then after having practice of 5 to 6 years, the Supreme Court also expects some sincerity and discipline from advocate on record. So what are the duties as an AOR? Duties as an AOR to maintain a respectful attitude towards the court and the legal system. An advocate shall conduct himself with dignity and self-respect. And obviously, the most important thing is that you will not become AOR just to lend your name. Just you will not limit yourself just only as a signing authority, because wakalatnama can be filed only by an AOR. So now people, they charge for signing authority, but it is your responsibility, that whether the petition is proper format, whether they have written all the provisions, whether they have written all the declarations provided in the Supreme Court rules. So as an AOR, you cannot just run away from responsibility after signing a wakalatnama. Rather, it is more of responsibility to present all the time. Suppose if you instruct an advocate to appear in that matter, and that advocate does not appear on so and so date, then Supreme Court is not going to ask that advocate. Supreme Court is directly going to call an AOR, that who is that AOR in that matter. So this is your responsibility to be more alert and more careful in your matters also. And if you are giving instructions to somebody, or if you are signing wakalatnama for other advocates, in that matter also, it is your responsibility, totally your responsibility, to answer Supreme Court. And sometimes when people, they if the AOR, they don't respect these rules, and sometimes their names may be removed from the list of AOR. So that is also a big insult, I must say, that if your name is removed from the list of AOR after so much of preparation, after so much of hard work, and you, after cracking AOR, you think that now the thing is over. Rather, the responsibility is more when you become an AOR. So why it is necessary to practice in Supreme Court of India if you are dreaming of an AOR? Because many small things which we learn during practice, and which you will be able to learn only during practice, and for which no prescribed format or no prescribed rule is given anywhere, neither in constitution, nor in Supreme Court rules, or nor in any other act. For example, let's take an example. So I practice in Supreme Court India. So how to take adjournment if if your matter is coming up on Friday, and there is no prescribed provision or procedure is given anywhere how to take adjournment. Now the practice is, whenever, suppose I'm not available on Friday, and due to some personal difficulty or some other reason, what I will do, I will prepare a letter on my letterhead, and I will circulate that letter to the registry and to the counsel who is appearing for other side, that 3 days prior to the Friday. Suppose the matter is coming on Friday, so by lunch on Wednesday, I have to submit that letter to the registry, writing my reasons that why I will not be able on Friday due to some personality or I am out of station, so that no inconvenience to be caused to the judges and to the other side also. Because obviously the court's times is very precious, so just they don't appreciate if if you will not circulate a letter and you would just directly say, my lord, I'm requesting for an adjournment. Obviously if there is something urgency, then obviously they will accommodate. But if you are just going to say that I'm in some personal difficulty and I'm going to take adjournment, judges, they are not going to give adjournment to you. So that is why if you practice in Supreme Court, then you should know these small practice. Other thing is, what is the who is the master of roster in Supreme Court? Nobody knows. Those who are not practicing in Supreme Court, that who is the master of roster, who gives cases, who allotted cases, that is the CJ, the Chief Justice of India. He is the master of roster, who assigned cases to the other judges. So these are the small things which we learn during our practice. So, and for these things, if you are thinking to practice in Supreme Court, so I think, matlab, this is my personal opinion, that if you are dreaming of AOR, then you must practice in Supreme Court. Latestly, in November 2009, some suggestions also came from the BCI, and it was said by our Chief Justice in one of the function that now it is the high time to decide that if now the fresher or the law graduates who are dreaming to be an AOR, who are dreaming to practice directly in Supreme Court of India, so now they uh, first 2 years they have to practice in district courts if they are planning to practice in higher courts, and if they are planning to practice in Supreme Court, then 2 years of practice in high courts. Till now it's just a suggestion, but BCI has also said that they will, coming year, they will amend Advocates Act. So these are the subjects where we need to focus. So let's see. I think I have covered from my side, because just very small topic to prepare yourself for an AOR exam. BCI has also said that now new lawyers should have practice for at least 2 years at a district or taluka before practicing in any high court of any of the state. And a lawyer wanting to practice in Supreme Court of India would need to have practice for at least 2 years in high court before that. Now, I think I'll conclude by saying that that as a constitutional right, the AOR exam conducted by Supreme Court evolves as a standard of eligibility for appearing, pleading, and acting before the Supreme Court. It ensures that a lawyer appearing before it has the right knowledge, skill, and authority, and the person is fit to take the case from the people and fight for them in the best possible manner. I hope I have covered everything to the best of my knowledge related to this topic. So I really thankful, Alok ji. Over to you. If any questions, then if I can answer few questions.
Yes. So students, kindly ask your questions by writing in the question answer box. Before they write, I want to ask Ankita ji that what books basically you recommend for like the provisions of the articles of the Supreme Court, like you have mentioned from 124 to 145. So any book you want to recommend for that, which gives a kind of detailed analysis of the articles?
For all the exams, like for practice and procedure, I will say first read Constitution, Bare Act, the best things, where the best language, no altered or nothing else. Read Bare Act. Second, the Supreme Court itself, they give you a study material. In libraries, they give a gist of study material where you can, these are actually the briefs of the reports given by the senior advocate. So we have read the study material also. Then Bare Act is the must, like the Constitution of India, then the Supreme Court rules, and the study material given by the senior advocates. And you should know the latest judgment, because in every year they ask you something, because they want to check whether you are regularly practiced before the Supreme Court or not. Like I can give my example. In my examination, they asked, what are the two cases in which midnight hearing took place in Supreme Court. So because that's not given anywhere. So two cases were the Surinder Kohli in that Nithari case, and the second was the Yaqub Menon. Yeah. So yes, obviously I was aware. So the thing is that you read all the latest judgment.
Okay, so no book like is there that which you can suggest. Okay, so regarding the second thing, like drafting, so how they can prepare for the best drafting, because in 3 hours you have to draft four. So time is very less. Like they also appear in their examination, and it is 3 hours, and they have to do 5 questions in our papers. So they are in habit of writing quickly, but still, what you suggest that how should they practice for this writing?
I will suggest, obviously, like we always say, that practice makes a man perfect. So if you are practicing for 5 years, then you must be drafting for 5 years also. That's what I'm saying. That this is not an exam that you will just or you can sit at home also for 4 years. That is also counting your practice. But if you will practice regularly, then what I did, I actually took a simple paper and pen, because I know I have to draft on paper and they are not going to provide a laptop or computer to me. So what I did, I used to write each and everything, which I know that yes, I know this, but still I used to write in the Supreme Court of India, so and so provision, article so and so, in the matter between so and so party. So you have to practice. That's it. Then only you can, and you have to see that you are able to complete one petition either in 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Then only you will be able to complete 4 questions in 3 hours.
Right.
So you have to, and I used to do the same thing. I used to sit by watch, yes, because I can say transfer petition is a small petition, and we write similar grounds in transfer petition. Then on what ground we are seeking transfer? So I know that transfer petition is going to less time, so I need not to give more than 30 minutes in transfer petition. Whereas in case of PIL and in writ petition or in SLP, it is going to take 40 minutes. So you have to divide your time. In 30 minutes I have to complete transfer petition. In 40 minutes I have to complete, so I have to complete SLP or writ petition, because these are the areas where you have to exercise with your mind, which fundamental rights are being violated. So these are the questions where you have to divide your time, and practice is must. You have to write again and again. You are not going to learn all these things within a month or within a short span of time. You have to give yourself enough time.
Right. So basic advice is, which I can infer, that after their degree, they should practice at least for 2 years in the trial court, and simultaneously they can assist an advocate in Supreme Court. They can assist beginning, but they should also learn the procedure from the very basic trial courts, and then they can do practice under the in the chamber in the Supreme Court. Because when they go to the Supreme Court advocate chamber, they will go through files. They will see what kind of problems come, and how PIL is to be filed, how 136 applications are to be filed. So basically, and they should practice by writing with their hands rather than typing on the laptop. So if they have to practice, then only they can do this thing, right? So this is what I infer. Now regarding the third paper, which you talk about the professional ethics, and which covers, they have in their syllabus now, in the last semester they have the professional ethics paper. But what you suggest that how they should go for this paper? Means they have to memorize the whole Advocates Act, or how should they proceed with this professional ethics paper?
For third paper, you must read Bar Council's rules, Advocates Act. These are the two subjects which you have to read it. Along with this, you should be aware with all the latest judgment, all the past judgment which talk about the professional ethics of advocates. Like we have so many judgments of contempt of court and misconduct, because they are going to ask these questions only. They will ask you directly question also, but situation based questions are more. So you should be aware with the latest judgment related to advocates, which covers all the topics.
So can we find judgment by typing like the contempt of court by advocates, we Google it, and judgments will come like this? Generally we find. So other cases, or we can go through like a decision on Advocate Act, something like this. So they have to prepare that. Right.
Alokji, I must say, when we say we are an advocate, so we are all the time we are alert. We are, we are watching news. Okay, we are reading judgments. So we can judge. Like I can say to my colleagues or my associates who are working in my office, now this question is going to be asked in next year question paper. So you have to be alert like that, because I've seen in past question paper also, they always say how much you update yourself all the time. And every day, I think in a month, Supreme Court or daily, I must say, they are passing so many judgments. So you just have to pick which is related to your topic, which is not, or just, you can gain your knowledge by that. So you have to update yourself.
Right. That is why I always suggest in my classes that reading newspaper cannot be dispensed with anything, because every day, and now you see the judgment you are talking about, that the night hearing or the roaster thing, these are all in the media because of some kind of controversies are there. Now the media is very active, and these things are very open and transparent nowadays. So whatever you have discussed, that only a practicing advocate in Supreme Court can get to know. But because I watch news, so I all know in the night hearing of when it took place, or who is the Chief Justice is the master of the roaster, all this. So if we read newspaper daily, if we keep track of the judgments, I think that is why they can make themselves updated. And this is the purpose of inviting you, Ankita ji, because now if you are saying, because if teacher is saying, they don't take it that seriously. But if a person who has done this kind of thing, and when that person says that is the purpose, because they have now 4 years, and that they will appear. So in these 4 years, they can read judgments, they can at least master the Bail Act, and they can practice how to draft the petitions in the Supreme Court. So this is the right time, because I think few students, they aspire only to be the advocates in the Supreme Court. So for this purpose, and the number of participants is high today, which I did not expect at this time, because they want to learn how to be the advocate on record. Okay, so few questions have come that I want to ask. Now, Parvez Ahmed is asking, what are the additional benefits we get after being AOR? Will there any chances to give exam for AOR after 5th attempt?
Answer is clearly no, because this is a rule as per the Supreme Court rules. 5 chances are enough to become an AOR. Second, what are the chances is that your name, you will be the signing authority to file cases before Supreme Court, and nobody can file a case without filing a wakalatnama in Supreme Court. So signing authority is something, nobody can appear, nobody can plead before getting a attestation or before signing a wakalatnama. So that is a big thing to have a AOR. Like when I was not an AOR, so I request one of my friend to sign my cases. But now after an AOR, so it is my case. My name will flash in the display. I will be responsible for everything. There is an advocate on record association. So obviously you come into a refined category. Whenever you say that I practice in Supreme Court, my experience, I travel to other high courts also, and when I meet my friends there, so I said I practice in Supreme Court. So first question is going to be asked, are you an AOR in Supreme Court? So this is the, you will feel when you will come into practice, what is the charm of to being an AOR.
Right, that is true. Another question is, ma'am, what will be your advice regarding practice for that AOR exam along with LLB study? From where students should have to start preparing? Is there any option to choose the subjects for AOR?
No, there is no option to choose subject. There are only 4 subjects, which everybody is appearing in all these subjects. These are the only 4 subjects till 2020, and I think there is no scope of amendment also. So these are the 4 subjects, and there is no option to choose a subject.
And I must tell Parvez, in answer to this question, that you have many papers in your LLB degree which covers these aspects. We have paper of drafting, we have paper of professional ethics. So these things can be covered there, so don't worry. And these are the compulsory papers which you have to pass to get your degree. So that is.
I must say one thing, Alok ji. As an advocate, you must develop a habit to read news. Reason is, and to read all the judgment is, because nowadays we see every high court or Supreme Court on daily basis, they are changing their statements. One judges say something, the next day the next bench say something else. So you have to update yourself. If you are updated, then obviously you can advise better to your client. Right. Suppose if I give some advice, if I'm not updated, and that person, whenever a client comes to you, he will talk to 10 lawyers before coming to you. So if you are giving him a right updated information, that he will stick to you only. So that is my request, or my suggestion, that an advocate should always update himself by Now it's very easy to have a legal app, bar and bench app, live law, or there are so many things, which gives you latest judgment on hours basis. So that is the reason that, you need or you should start developing a habit of reading books, because I think to read books is more easy rather than to read on email or manupatra or something else. So I think you should develop this habit to read.
Right, right. Now there is ma'am, is there AOR in high courts also? No, that is, she has answered. There is no need for AORs to be in the high courts. In high court, any advocate can practice. Another question is, ma'am, LLM add any value to become ADR?
No. LLB degree is enough.
Okay. There is no help if you do LLM. Okay. So can an AOR appear before other courts?
Yes.
Yes. He is a privileged advocate, so he can appear before the Supreme Court, so he can appear before all other courts.
You can appear before Supreme Court if you are not an AOR also, but signing authority will not be with you. Signing authority to sign a wakalatnama is the main thing. Whenever we file a case before any of the court, either before district court or before high court, then wakalatnama is the something which client gives us the authority to represent him before the court. So wakalatnama is authority, and that signing authority is in the Supreme Court is only with an AOR,
And
not even the senior advocates.
Yes, not even the senior advocates. So, and I have heard that the lucrative money is to be given to these AORs for signing the petition, depending upon who's the council and what kind of petition. So, as far as the income is concerned, that is also, it increases even if the client is not coming directly to you, but if he is coming to some other advocate, but that advocate requires the signature of the AOR. So that is, I think, that an additional income of the AOR. Of course, Ankita ji has mentioned that with that signing thing and with that money, you have some responsibility, but that can be taken care of if you are practicing in a Supreme Court. So I think it is a very lucrative kind of career option for the students. And they have asked less questions because I have asked many questions on their behalf, how to prepare, how to, do practice of these things. So how to get the updated information that what is changed in the syllabus of the AOR, because you have mentioned that they change every year the pattern. So how should the student get this information that now what is the pattern which is prevailing nowadays?
Everything is available on website of Supreme Court of India. Okay. Everything. Okay. So whatever they change, obviously they will circulate on a very large level also. But okay, obviously the students, they are not aware of it. But yes, on website of Supreme Court of India, you will get everything.
Okay. So in the meantime, one question has arisen. Ma'am, this new rule of BCI on 2+2 year mandatory practice is disadvantageous?
They're not a disadvantage. Actually, earlier you cannot stop anybody. My suggestion is that you cannot stop anybody to practice anywhere. Like I started my practice directly from Supreme Court of India. But yes, I appear before district court and high court also. But yes, suppose I don't have any matter. Today I don't have any matter in district court or high court. Then I will be in Supreme Court only. And I'm lucky to have, to see senior advocates, how they are arguing. So this is a learning phase for me. So there is no disadvantage, but the thing is nowadays what Supreme Court, what the judges, they think, the students, the law graduates, new law graduates, which they are coming, they are not disciplined. They don't know how to appear before the court. So Supreme Court is saying that it's just a suggestion right now, maybe amendment next year or this year, that first you practice before the trial court for some time, for 2 years, if you want to practice in high court. And if you want to practice in Supreme Court, then practice of 2 years before High Court also. Because in Supreme Court, they give, it's obviously it is a constitutional court and the court's time is very precious. So they don't give you 1 hour to express yourself. They will give you hardly 30 seconds or a minute to express yourself. If you are not able to complete your sentence within 30 seconds or within 1 minute, judges literally, they are going to throw your file. Whereas in case of High Court or a district courts, they give you patient hearing. They give you enough time to express yourself. So by practicing in 2 and 4 hours is enough, because the number is less, but you learn a lot in these 4 years. You will practice, and in Supreme Court there are 90% of cases they got dismissed on first hearing. Whereas in case of district court and in high court, first they will issue notice, then the other side will come. And in obviously, if the matter is civil, then you will file n number of applications. In criminal side also, FIR will be filed, then charge sheet, then examination of witness. So the trial is going to be take. So by this time, you will prepare yourself to to appear in Supreme Court. Obviously, constitutional court, the level is so high, and you have a responsibility of your clients. The interest of clients should not be hampered. So that is why these suggestions are coming from the Bar Council and from the CGI also. Okay, now in coming years, we should develop this practice.
Yes, because when you practice in different levels, and you know how to manage your time. So how you have to present the petition in the high court, what is the procedure in trial court, and basically if you learn everything beforehand, it is very easy for you to appear. Because in Supreme Court, when you get a case, if you have the backing of the practice at the lower level, you can get to know that what is the point, where is the flaw, what was. So it is, I always suggest that the student should have the experience of the trial courts also, to know the basic thing, because case has developed from the trial court, except in few cases where you are filing for writ petition, PIL, etc. Generally it has to move through various stages. So that is, so I will take the last question, that how many advocates every year selected for the AOR? Is there any limit set by SC?
There is no limit. It's totally up to the examiners, and the examiners, they are senior advocates only who were AORs at their time. So there is no time limit. But usually, what the criteria they said, every year 1,000 to 1,200 advocates, they are appearing for AOR exam. This year, obviously, it is deferred because of this pandemic situation. So, and out of 1,200, they will select 125 to 150 and 200. So approximately 25% of the applicants.
Okay, so it means the standard is high. They want to maintain the high standard. Okay, so the judges are not the examiner, only the senior advocates of the Supreme Court are the examiners.
And senior advocates, even they take classes also before the exams. And these classes are actually very helpful. They will tell you, obviously examiner is going to tell you what kind of question. He will give you idea whether he will give you short questions more or he will give you long questions more. So these are helpful to the advocates.
Okay, so basically that is why it is advisable that if you want to appear, so you have to be in the Supreme Court for all these updates, because you get to know that when the classes will happen and what. Okay, so one question more I'll take. Paras is asking, ma'am, what other duties are bestowed on the AOR other than signing the Wakalatnama?
Other than signing Wakalatnama, suppose, let's take an example, because we see in our daily routines, you sign a Wakalatnama for some of the advocate, and his matter is coming next week, and on that week that advocate is not available, or he didn't inform you. And obviously when you don't know, then you cannot inform to the judges also. Matter is called out, that advocate was not there, then it was your responsibility to appear in court, and you should have the brief of that. You can say, you cannot say before the court that I just signed the Wakalatnama and now I'm free. So now my answer is to it that only mere lending name is not required. You have to be aware, you have to be thorough with the file also on which you have signed it. So it is your responsibility to answer the judges. Advocate is not going to answer. AOR is going to answer to the judges that why this case, why the advocate is not is here, and why he did not inform us. It is duty of an AOR. So in every case, who is going to be responsible? The advocate on record.
Right. So I think, Ankita ji, you have covered the whole area, that what kind of questions have come and how to prepare, what are the subjects, from where they should study, and also the duties and responsibilities of the AOR, which generally we do not know. We only know that the signing authority gets a huge amount of money for signing this. But now today we understand that if we want to have this thing, so we should have the responsibilities also to perform. And I hope that students will definitely get a good idea about how to proceed after their degree in LLB, and even the first, second year students, they will be aware that these papers, definitely they will come in their coming years. They will study the papers like professional ethics, drafting. So they will take these papers seriously, unlike the other practices. Like now they know that if we want to go to the Supreme Court, these papers become the foundation of this. So with this, I would like to thank you, Ankita ji, for giving your valuable time for our students. Thank you, and we'll in the future also we'll keep inviting you to guide our students for this purpose. Thank you so much.
I hope that I have covered everything to best of my knowledge related to this topic. And I'm really thankful to Alok ji, my dear friend also and moderator of this lecture also, who has given me this opportunity to share my experience or knowledge on this topic. I'm also grateful and thankful to Madam Sarabjit Kaur for providing me this opportunity to speak on this platform. I'm really thankful to everybody who has watched this series, and all the very best to all of you. And I really welcome you all to come and practice in Supreme Court. We will be there to help you always. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankita ji.